This is an emergency video. My original plan was to work on the topics shadows, handholding and art. However, something happened in 2025, something that stole my attention. In August, the Comic-Con number 106 took place, and on that convention, Touhou 20 Fossilized Wonders was released. The only game of 2025 I played so far. I had to play it. If you should be wondering right now, Touhou, then I would advise watching this story first, in which I describe my journey with that exact question. Although, I guess it's more likely that somebody who already knows about Touhou clicked on this video, and to properly address these viewers, hi Touhou community, nice to meet you again. I hope this video will add a worthwhile perspective, because today I want to answer a question that was on my mind for a long time, and which is also the reason why I had to play Touhou 20. It is a really long-running series now, and after all these years I wonder, are these games still good? Or did they lose their magic somewhere along the way? Touhou 6 is fantastic, but it was released in 2002, that's almost a quarter of a century ago. How does the series look today, and does Senoue still got it? Let's start by telling you where I'm at. In 2024 I played Touhou 6, the embodiment of Scarlet Devil, and made a video about it. In fact, it was one major inspiration to start with these storytime videos, next to Crypt of the Necrodancer. And Space Channel 5 of course. I played Embodiment of Scarlet Devil a lot, I even cleared the extra stage, and I left it very satisfied. Then I turned to other genres, but I soon returned because I kept asking myself if Touhou 6 was some kind of one-hit wonder. If it is the sole reason for the stunning popularity of the series, and if the future titles just rode on its success. After all, Touhou 7 Perfect Cherry Blossom was released just 1 year later. For a project that is developed by just one person, that is pretty fast. I had to take a look at it, and at first glance it seems almost identical to its predecessor. There are some graphical updates, but apart from that you would be forgiven if you couldn't tell these games apart. As if Touhou 7 was just repeating what 6 already did, and that's not entirely false. Perfect Cherry Blossom does offer a new system that revolves around collecting these cherry blossom leaves, which grants you a temporary shield. It does alter the gameplay, but not in a substantial way. On a fundamental level, these two games are almost the same. In comparison, Touhou 6 made the jump from the PC 98 into the Windows era. It looks and feels much more advanced compared to Touhou 5. And it introduced the spell card system, which became a core element of the series and is one of the reasons the boss fights feel so lively and teem with character. So in terms of innovation, Touhou 7 is less remarkable than 6. But apart from that, for me, Perfect Cherry Blossom is superior in every other way. In the first few minutes it might just feel like more of what made Touhou 6 great, but the creativity of the levels and bosses quickly convinced me. Part 7 has a ghost theme, the story leads you to the border between life and death, and to implement that, some enemies have gimmicks like transitioning from being invisible to suddenly pop up and shoot out bullets. Spooky. In general, the stages with the enemies and patterns feel very distinct from one another, and the bosses? Well, see for yourself. Here we have Chen, the stage 2 boss, who is remarkably agile. The focus of the game is usually dodging all the stuff flying at you, but damaging the boss is still important, which gets complicated if your opponent does something like this. She plays around with the basic formula of such a fight, and level 3 raises the stakes even further, because immediately after the first wave of enemies, Alice Margatroyd, the stage boss, shows up. And in total you have 3 fights with her on one stage. That's unique, and on top of that she creates very memorable patterns with her puppets. The standout level has to be stage 4, with its endless barrage of similar patterns that keeps forming the screen and you constantly have to look for safe spaces. It feels like a marathon, and there's so much to learn if you want to get through without spending all your lives and bombs. On my journey to a 1-credit clear, this was a major roadblock. And the boss? Are actually 3 bosses. Depending on which character you chose in the beginning, you will fight one of them, but for their spell cards they all join the fight. Having 3 targets on screen changes up the dynamic a lot, and in addition, by focusing your fire on one of them you can manipulate which of the 3 will stay for round 2. So you can influence which patterns you will have to face. Which is important because you don't want to fight the little prick with the trumpet. All of these examples feel unique, and they not only offer new imaginative patterns, but they play around with the way of how these bosses work. That's how Perfect Cherry Blossom sets itself apart from Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. The quality of the stages and bosses is so high, and there are a bunch of new ideas. Touhou 6 was already pretty creative, but in my opinion Part 7 goes even further. But when you enter level 5 and this amazing song starts playing, you will be reminded of that legendary stage 5 boss of Touhou 6, Sakuya Izayoi. I hate Sakuya Izayoi. Yes, I am aware that I'm currently playing as Sakuya. She was added as a third playable character and she has 2 very interesting shot types. She is cool here, but I still hate to fight her in Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. The bosses of Perfect Cherry Blossom did offer their own quirks and mechanics, but Sakuya's time stop still reigns supreme as the most extreme, most hype and most enraging boss mechanic. How should Touhou 7 stage 5 boss ever compete with that? And then you meet Youmu, who has a really cool design and wields a katana, which is a weird choice for a bullet hell character. What use could a sword be in a game like... Yes, it is not a time stop, but it's hard to put in words how cool the cutting effect and the slowdown are. I would even argue that mechanically it is superior to the time stops. You can move during the slowdown, which for a couple of seconds creates this alternative game mode, in which you need to predict how the projectiles will move when they get back to normal speed. It is very impressive, and over the course of her boss fight, Youmu shows some variations, like this one where she cuts these big bullets to small pieces that you then need to avoid. Youmu is at least on the same level as Sakuya, and that alone is a great achievement. Overall, Perfect Cherry Blossom showcases so much character in its stages and bosses that for me it surpasses Touhou 6. This is the one I will be playing over and over again. And we didn't even talk about Yuyuko, the final boss, because that's a story for another time. So there you have it. Touhou 6 and 7 are both great. The series didn't just produce one hit, but instead increased in quality and played around with how bosses fundamentally work. I am looking forward to playing the next ones, so that one day I will know all of the silhouettes from that Bad Apple video. This series had a glorious past. So what about the present? I was really curious how the newest entry would compare to those 2 classics. Touhou 20 was still developed by mostly one person, Zun, which is an indicator that it might deliver a similar degree of quality. But much has changed in the world, especially in the video game industry, and many names that were once hallmarks of quality struggle to live up to their past. Is Touhou 20 Fossilized Wonders one of them? To judge that, I used the 4 pillars of greatness that I identified while looking at Touhou 6. These were the main reasons I enjoyed the game so much, and in order to analyze Part 20, I will look at each of these and compare it with the earlier titles. That should give me enough insights to properly place it in my newly created official Touhou ranking. So let's start with music. Up until this point, I only used songs from Touhou 7 as background music, and from here on out it will be only Touhou 20 tracks. This might give you the opportunity to draw your own comparison. Since I lack a background in music, I have a hard time putting my thoughts into words here, but overall I adore Touhou soundtracks, and the one from Fossilized Wonders is no exception. It does sound different though. Zun's style has evolved over time. While it is still clearly Touhou music, the choice of instruments and the specific melodies do create a different atmosphere. All in all, the OST from Fossilized Wonders features less energetic songs, although there are still a lot of those, but there are more foreboding and emotional pieces, which fits the atmosphere of the game's story. This time the stakes seem to be higher than during the earlier incidents. As usual, the soundtrack works well with the game, and there are moments when the action on screen flows in sync with the music. One of the most memorable of these occasions was at the end of stage 5, when the music evolved into this hectic tune while enemies were swarming me from all sides and it became hard to keep track of what was happening. But as this wave of foes slowly died down, the music changed. I took a deep breath and wondered how on earth I got into space. That seemed wrong, and the music perfectly supported that. And this is intentional, because in the following dialogues the characters are also confused and don't know how they got here. Great stuff. Fossilized Wonders has an amazing soundtrack. I personally prefer the older ones, but in the end the game delivers a similar quality here, and I will keep listening to these songs. And if any of you know when the Eurobeat album for Touhou 20 will be released, then please let me know. From the footage, you have probably already concluded that Fossilized Wonders is very close to that basic formula we already saw in Touhou 6. The moment-to-moment gameplay feels similar, and dodging complex patterns is as mesmerizing as always. However, Touhou 20 does provide 2 new systems to play around with, and they do have a big impact on the game. Let's start with these meters down here. They fill up as you shoot enemies, dodge bullets and collect these crystals. Once the horizontal one is filled, it activates your incident attack. Not only does it grant you a special shot type for a short amount of time, while it is active you can also tank one hit without dying. I don't need to explain how powerful that is in a game where every hit kills you. In the best case, this can dish out a lot of damage and save your life, similar to a bomb. The vertical meter does something very different. It summons an enemy formed like a pyramid. It shoots out bullets and has quite some health, so at first this feels like a downside. However, when you kill it, 2 things happen. First, it drops a bomb piece. Collect 3 of them and you get an additional bomb. And every third of these pyramid things drops a heart piece, and if you get 3 of these, you'll score an extra life. This is the way to get additional resources, and you can acquire quite a few if you graze enemy bullets a lot and collect the crystals that spawns. It takes 9 pyramids to get an extra life, and I usually manage that during stage 2. Summoning these enemies as often as possible becomes a secondary goal during play, and shooting them down grants another beneficial effect. When killed, they clear the screen of all bullets. Very useful. It saved me a lot of times, and when I knew that a complicated pattern was coming up, I sometimes even delayed killing them, so the screen clear could help me when I needed it the most. For an observant player, they offer an additional layer of strategy, and using it effectively is quite rewarding. There's even a positive feedback loop, because while you're shooting at a pyramid it drops a lot of crystals, and if you collect them you'll get even faster to the next one, while also activating your incident attack more often. During my first 1cc run I even maxed out my lives. With that, the gameplay of Fossilized Wonders feels distinct. Most of the time you will focus on the fundamentals, dodging bullets like in the old games, but in between you will optimize your play to gain more crystals. But as uniquely as this might feel, I would argue that there is an even more disruptive innovation in the game. Surely you noticed these stone icons on the right. They belong to another new major mechanic, the incident stones. When you start the game, you first choose Reimu or Marissa as your character, which is one less than Touhou 7. But then you need to select one of 8 incident stones. These are basically your shot types, and with some math we can conclude that there are 16 different ones. Which is huge, there's a lot to try out. This is just the beginning though. Each incident stone represents a loadout, consisting of an incident attack, the super move that is activated with this bar, a focused and an unfocused shot, and a passive effect. For example, the Scarlet Devil Stone. Oh yes, I forgot to mention that these stones relate to past Touhou games. Fossilized Wonders is a celebration of the series, and the stones and shot types reference other games, and they even slightly change the story. If you 1cc the game, you get an ending with characters of these games. That's why I mainly use the ones from 6 and 7, Scarlet Devil and Snow Blossom. But back to gameplay. The Scarlet Devil grants Reimu the good old purification needles that I used to defeat Flandre Scarlet. The incident attack is this barrage that shoots straight up, and the passive effect buffs the damage of my focused shots. Very solid. However, as you play, you unlock additional copies of the incident stones and you can equip them in these 4 slots. And this is where the game gets interesting, because each of these slots represents one of the 4 aspects of an incident stone. Incident attack, focused and unfocused shot, and passive effect. Once unlocked, you can mix and match them as you please. So if I want to use Scarlet Devil but have a wider unfocused shot that hits most of the screen, then I can do that. And I could change even more. Nothing stops me from picking 4 different stones and create a wild build. And there are some truly wild combinations. For example, the passive effect of the imperishable moon sometimes deletes projectiles when they collide with the orbs that shoot out your bullets. And look at that, when focused, the purification needles form a nice and cozy shield. Only a fraction of the bullets gets erased, so you can never fully rely on it, but this combination will save you from time to time. And now check out the focused shot of the beast hardness. It locks your orbs in place, and as long as you keep focusing, they will stay there. You can park them directly in front of a boss, so you can dodge to wherever you want. And when combined with the imperishable moon passive, they can eat up some bullets that the boss shoots at you. This is just one example, there are so many options here, and it's just fun to test out combinations. Together with the effects of the pyramids, it creates a unique Touhou experience. In terms of innovation, it definitely drives the series forward. So in the gameplay category, Fossilized Wonders convinced me, and the replay value is off the charts here. However, while I enjoyed it a lot, I would not recommend this as your first Touhou game. All the options will overwhelm new players. You basically have to play for 16 rounds just to see what possibilities you have. This is a game for veterans of the series, and this leads us into the next topic. Look at these fairies. Your basic level 1 enemies, not much of a threat. And look how long it takes to kill them. As a reference, here are the first enemies of Touhou 6 and 7, and as you can see, they die in one hit. This is your first indication that Fossilized Wonders works a bit different. In fact, most enemies feel very tanky. They absorb a lot of hits, and you will frequently find yourself in situations where you cannot kill all the enemies on screen. In earlier games, most of the time you just needed to make sure that your bullets fly to the correct part of the screen, but in Touhou 20 you often need to focus on specific enemies. Managing your offense and killing the bigger threats fast needs much more practice. And in addition, the bullet patterns you are facing often feel more complicated than what I was used to. This is true for bosses and for stages too. You need much more learning on how to get through specific situations alive, and there are a couple of moments that feel borderline unfair, where the screen gets filled with so much stuff and you can hardly see the bullets coming. Or these enemies that burst into projectiles when you shoot them down. Sudden unexpected deaths or situations where you maneuvered yourself into a trap happen much more frequent. And if you compare the bosses to their counterparts in other games, then most of them offer a much bigger challenge. All in all, Touhou 20 is easily the hardest of these 3 games. But at the same time, it is also the one that offers you the most support. The incident attacks, the screen clears by destroying a pyramid, or the ability to customize your shot type. All of these are powerful tools. When mastered, they make your playthrough significantly easier, but getting there, learning these possibilities and all of the bullet patterns felt like a steep climb. Actually, for a while I was not sure if I would be able to 1cc the game. In the end I did, and it was rewarding, but I'm not sure if I would have made it without my previous experiences with the series. The difficulty and embodiment of Scarlet Devil and Perfect Cherry Blossom feels much more consistent, and I can only repeat that Fossilized Wonders is a game for veterans. But for those, the high challenge and the new mechanics will create a remarkable journey. Especially collecting these crystals by grazing bullets and sticking around in one area. All of this fuels the risk and reward cycle that works so well in these games. Despite its difficulty, Touhou 20 is a great package, and all the options and new systems create a fresh and engaging experience. When comparing it with 6 and 7, I am tempted to place it above them, but we haven't talked about the most crucial criteria yet. For some it might be the music, but for me the characters are the most important ingredient of a Touhou game. They are what keeps me playing. Facing them over and over again, getting accustomed to their quirks and patterns, and getting to know who they are in their fights. This is what made me a fan of the series. Perfect Cherry Blossom nailed this, which is why I prefer to Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. And Fossilized Wonders is unfortunately a mixed bag. Some are great, but some are not that memorable to me. The first one, Ubame, belongs to the latter category. Although, the first boss is usually nothing special and a short affair. Ubame thinks that you forced her out of her home, and her patterns have a defensive nature, as if she wants to get distance between you. They are already harder than what I'm used to for a first boss, and I do like the one where she lets fairies fall down on you. It stresses her wild nature. But that's all I can say about her. The second one needs to be compared with Cherno and Shen, and both have a clear theme and are quite charming in their own way. I always looked forward to fighting them. Chimi Hoju from Fossilized Wonders doesn't live up to that standard. She does feature some strong patterns and is an early skill check, however the fight lacks consistency. She seems quite knowledgeable and offers you hints on how to progress in the story, and this is reflected in her patterns that show a huge array of different bullets. And her spell card, Chi of a Restless Forest, is an early highlight that needs some quick thinking. She's not bad, but in the end she feels like a random collection of patterns and it took me a while to memorize what she does. Maybe it's just me, but the first two didn't speak to me and that's why my runs really started with stage 3. And here the game redeems itself. Nariko Michigami is my favorite fight in the game. With her outfit and the fact that she's guarding a pyramid, you can already see a theme. And in her dialogue she doubles down by confronting you with the famous Sphinx riddle. Marisa doesn't know the answer and that's why she has to fight. Reimu on the other hand answers correctly, which prompts Nariko to come up with another answer so she can claim that Reimu was wrong. She really wants to fight, and that's because she has more riddles she wants to show off. Her spell cards. They are all kinda intricate and leave you wondering what you are supposed to do. But once you know the answer, they become manageable. The first is called Pyramidal Labyrinth, and that's a good description for what you're seeing. It feels like navigating an ever-changing maze, which is a fresh take. It reminds me of patterns you see in an extra stage, but toned down enough that they are less punishing. Her other spell cards like Logical Wall and Ancient Trap are similar. Both need some quick thinking and focus to move through a bullet maze. Nariko's patterns paint clear images, and that's why they are the most remarkable of the game. Fighting her is so much fun. She really loves her riddles, and when you finally overcome all of them, she confesses that she didn't have a proper reason to fight. She just wanted to show off her riddles, and I'm thankful for that. I'm even fine with losing a life here. This one is just pure joy, and Nariko quickly became one of my favorite bosses of the whole series. The fact that my preferred boss is already in level 3 might be concerning, but luckily the game follows her up with a very interesting stage and another boss that feels special, but in a completely different way than Nariko. Yuiman Asama is confused, disturbed even. In her dialogue she cannot even follow her own train of thought, and the exchange with her leads to nothing. Originally she was a princess who liked hunting, but she was somehow transferred into the pyramid and now acts as an artificial intelligence with the task to organize and purify data. But at the moment there's too much data coming in, Yuiman is not able to process it and she is glitching out in a way. This is quite a high concept to portray in bullet patterns, but surprisingly, Sun did a good job with her. Her normal patterns embody her proficiency in data processing. They are neatly organized, and as a player you need to perceive the overarching structure to move through. These patterns are also very uninspired. Each subsequent one just adds more bullets, but the basic structure is the same. Everything is neatly ordered and nothing feels out of place. Her spell cards form a stark contrast. They are outright chaotic. They represent her disturbed mind, her glitched out state, and the amount of data that is overflowing her. For these you need to rely on micro-movement and quick reactions. Focusing on the whole picture will hardly help you. Her last phase, Discommunication, perfectly illustrates that. It is a complete mess of different projectiles that she seems to have collected from several past games. We have Sakuya's knives and these butterflies that will appear again later in the video. And they all have different behaviors, which can make it confusing. The contrast between these organized and chaotic patterns make Yuiman a deeply conflicted figure, as if she was torn between different personalities. And to top it off, there's even one spell card thrown in, which showcases her past as a hunting princess. All in all, a disturbing fight, and like Nariko, it just works. It clearly tells you in what state this character is. It also has a fitting song. The piano seems just as confused as Yuiman herself. And with that, we head into stage 5, and once again we have to talk about Sakuya's time stops and Youmu's slowdowns. A stage 5 boss just needs to be able to compete with them. The one from Fossilized Wonders doesn't bring a unique mechanic to the table. Nevertheless, I would argue that she is just as remarkable as the ones from the earlier games. Watatsuki no Toyohime is the boss of Touhou 20. She appears after you realized you are in space, and you immediately know that something about her is different, because she knows Reimu and Marisa. In their dialogue they don't go into detail, but there is clearly a past. A past I don't share. And even to this day I still don't know who exactly Toyohime is and what she did. I know that her appearance is a big deal. But I have no real clue why. But just by playing this fight I can tell you one thing for certain. I hate her. She has one signature pattern she repeats over the course of the fight with slight variations, and it's the definition of unfairness. She spawns a swarm of bullets around you and then moves them directly towards you. On my first playthroughs I wasn't sure what you are supposed to do. This is just the perfect bullet hell strategy. Why use elaborate patterns if you can just do this? Of course there is a way out, and it involves precisely streaming through the gaps. It is far from impossible, it's just hard to learn what to do when she surrounds you this fast. But don't think you won't die to it anymore once you know the trick. It still needs a master level in streaming. I mean, just look at this. And as you can see, these patterns drag on forever, because you cannot focus on shooting her with all that nonsense. These phases alone make picking a homing shot type worth it. But here's the kicker. These were her normal phases, the ones where you are supposed to catch your breath. Her spell cards are tricky too, of course. They mostly follow the same strategy. First, she confronts you with a hard to dodge but overall easy to read pattern. You get comfortable with it, move into safer areas, and then she ambushes you with a twist. Look at this one, Landslide, in which these chains of droplets fall down and you naturally move to the lower parts of the screen to have more time to react. But this is her trap, because these bullets don't just disappear, but rather fill up the lower parts of the screen and create this huge death zone. And in The Ebbing Jewel, you first meet these slowly moving drops that spawn at the bottom, so you will dodge upwards, only to be swept away. What you actually need to do is hide behind the big drops, because they shield you from the other projectiles. This is such a novel pattern, and it needs constant rerouting to get to the next safe place. And all the while you need to make sure you don't collide with the big drops, because they kill you on contact as well. Toyohime's spell cards are cruel and playful at the same time, which is probably a fitting description for her personality. At the end of the fight, she doesn't acknowledge your victory and states that she was just testing you. While I was tempted to call her a sore loser, I couldn't deny that her fight didn't feel like she was taking me serious. Her ambush-style spell cards felt like she was trying out some tricks and that I didn't even see her full power. This was reinforced by her last spell card, in which she drops the games and just shoots out this beautiful and deadly net of lasers. Here we get a glimpse of her real power. There are no ambushes or tricks, just a damn hard pattern to dodge. This feeling of being a toy for your opponent who tries to humiliate you with these cheap tricks and then having one half-serious face in the end. This created some strong emotions in me. Negative emotions, of course. Because she was ruining many 1cc attempts and she is by far the boss that costed me the most lives. I would argue that Toyohime is even harder than the true last boss. She steals the show. All of the patterns and the whole way she is presented make her the true adversary of Fossilized Wonders. And the actual final boss, Aria Iwanaga, cannot really keep up with her. She does have a cool design and a great theme song, however the fight itself is just not as memorable. She even has one spell card that resembles Toyohime's tactic of spawning bullets around you. But while Aria does fill up the whole screen, the threat level here is much tamer. You need to maneuver carefully, but you are never as hopelessly surrounded as with Toyohime. Still, Aria has a lot of clever patterns and learning them is a rewarding journey. Like this one where these bullets chase you around and you need to find a path over the screen. Or that one where these 4 streams of bullets get sent out into different directions and bounce back, and you need to make sure you never have to face too many of them at the same time. From a pure mechanical perspective, there's a lot to love here and you will be tested in many ways. But this fight lacks a cohesive theme in its different challenges. At least I wasn't able to identify it. The standout spell card is Danmaku Fossil with its structure that you need to navigate through. It's exciting and it might easily rack up deaths. But this idea of having stationary bullets that impede your movement is not used again. This could have been her theme. Imagine she had two other phases that offered similar unmovable patterns that just stayed on screen while she shot out other bullets. That would have been a nice way to implement her role as the stone goddess. But as it stands, her theme is mostly a visual one, and the one pattern that is iterated on is her least remarkable one. In the end, Aria is a good boss, I like fighting her. But in comparison to Toyohime or Nariko, she feels less defined. She doesn't come to life with her patterns. And compared to other final Touhou bosses, she feels less climactic. Her final phase, Stone Goddess, is a nice concluding test that slowly ramps up the difficulty. But it doesn't come close to the tension of Remelia Scarlet's red magic, that even to this day makes my heart race. So in the end, we have 3 great, 1 good and 2 okay bosses. Which was still enough to make me play the game over and over again. But in that regard, Fossilized Wonders is weaker than Embodiment of Scarlet Devil. If I were just looking at that, then I would attest the serious symptoms of decline. However, Touhou 20 Fossilized Wonders is overall the better package. The possibilities you have in customizing your shot types are astounding, and the incident attacks and the spawning of the pyramids creates an additional branch in the gameplay loop that you can try to master while you are also learning the levels and bosses. This one will keep you coming back. That's what happened to me. At the time of this writing, I have 1 credit cleared the game with 4 different loadouts, and I tried out the extra stage as well. I don't plan to beat it, since I'm more of a 1cc on normal type of guy, but you never know. Touhou 6 is still the better game to start the series though, because Fossilized Wonders is more difficult, but apart from that it is a fantastic game that clearly proves that Sun does indeed still got it. The future of the series looks bright, just as its past. Although, if you ask me, I'd like to see Sun work on a different genre. He contributed so many ideas to Danmaku shooters, so I would be interested to see if he has other genres that he would like to try out. Maybe a modern version of the wild concept he used in Touhou 1? Or something completely different. But even if he sticks to bullet hells, I'm looking forward to whatever he comes up with next. And that's all I had to say about Touhou 20, one of the gaming highlights of 2025. Thank you for watching. However, Perfect Cherry Blossom is still the best. Its levels and bosses are way more fun, and I prefer it even if it doesn't offer as many shot types. And if you think I was harsh and overly critical towards Touhou 20's final boss Aria, then you are right. But I have a good reason, because Touhou 7's final boss is so much better. And I will show you, so if you don't want to get spoiled, this is your cue to leave. I am already done with the main topic, the video has reached its official end, and the rest will be me gushing about my favorite boss in the series, Ghost Princess Yuyuko. At the end of Perfect Cherry Blossom, your journey over the border of life leads you to the Yokai Cherry Tree, and Yuyuko is about to unseal its power. This is when you fight her. Her first phase is nothing more than a taste of what she is capable of, but when she starts her first spell card, the spectacle begins. On one side, bullets rain down like cherry blossom petals in the wind, and you need to weave through them, because Yuyuko annihilates the other side with her lasers. In the next wave, petals and lasers switch sides, which results in a frantic race to the other end of the screen. This pattern is already one of the most fun in the game, but as soon as you clear it, Yuyuko opens her fan, and this is where the true fight begins. You can clearly see how she fans these oversized projectiles at you. The trick with those is that you can go through the white border area, only the blue center hurts you, and thanks to the fanning movement you can find openings. Using this fan is one of her techniques, and in the next spell card she combines it with a special power to control the souls of the dead. They are portrayed as these butterfly bullets. You might remember them from Yuiman, the disturbed AI who stole them for one of her spell cards. The souls fill the screen while Yuyuko keeps fanning big orbs at you, which creates a very deadly combination. You'll find yourself forced towards the edge of the screen where she can easily corner you. And with that we have seen the theme of her fight. Controlling the souls and using her fan techniques is how she creates her spell cards, usually in a beautiful and almost mesmerizing way, as if she were dancing under the yokai tree. She is usually moving around a lot, unless she is performing a special ghost summon, like the swallowtail butterfly that chases you around and creates some new problems for you. This one is almost an extra stage level pattern. So we have a strong and clearly visible theme that produces diverse challenges. When fighting her, Yuyuko leaves a lasting impression, similar to Yomo, Sakuya and Toyohime. But the beauty of her patterns surround Yuyuko with a noble and serene aura. And as the grand finale, you have to face the perfect ink black cherry blossom, which works like the last phases we saw in Touhou 6 and 20. A long pattern that slowly builds up as more and more butterfly souls enter the screen and cherry petals rain down on you. This is a test of your endurance, and I think it works just as well as Remelia's red magic. On a 1cc run, you'll be in a complete flow state, scanning your surroundings, carefully routing through all the beautiful things that want to kill you, until finally you've beaten Touhou 7. Or so you think, but then you remember that Yuyuko is a ghost, so depleting her health doesn't kill her. And now she has opened the seal of the yokai cherry tree and you have to face this endless waves of souls. On my first run, this jump scared me. I was actually already off the keyboard and immediately lost my last life. It's another way that Touhou 7 mixes up the basics of a boss fight. This surprise final phase is the true climax of the game. And it makes so much sense, you are fighting a ghost. This is the culmination of the theme of Touhou 7. You cannot deal any damage here, instead you need to survive until the power of the tree runs out. It's a pure survival mode. The perfect final phase to conclude the game. As the music rises to incredible highs and the bullets get faster and faster, you might find yourself quickly running through your last lives and bombs. Not me though. This is footage from my first 1cc and I was just feeling it. I refused to use bombs. But no matter how, if you can make it through and finally defeat Yuyuko, then you will catch a glimpse of the perfect cherry blossom. What a bombastic ending. Playing it and somehow getting through feels incredible. Even by just watching my replays for this video I got goosebumps. And that's why Touhou 7 is simply the best. At least in my limited view on the series. But now that I've looked at the past and the present of Touhou, I can say with certainty that this is one of the best long-running series in gaming. I will continue playing these games. But after 3 videos and covering many aspects, I think I can lay this topic to rest. That was all I had to say about Touhou. So from here on out, there is no need for more videos about it. As if.